Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about the line tool in SolidWorks. So previously we started using a line tool, but we didn't go too in depth about the line tool. But here we're going to go into more details about it. So typically you would use a line tool if it's something that you can't draw. Like let's say if you were to make a rectangle, um, or like a polygon, for example. So if it's any of these two shapes, you wouldn't want to use a line tool to make it. So anything that you can't create with a rectangle or a polygon tool, you could use a line tool. So you could make custom shapes in 2D, or you could use a line tool in 3D too. But here we're talking about 2D. So we're gonna go ahead and sketch on the top plane. So if you look at the drop down, you have three types of lines. You have a line, a center line, and a midpoint line. So a line is like a solid line, so solid lines can help you form a contour, which we'll use in features later. And then center line is usually good for like reference sketches. So here we can see center line has like dashes between the 2 points, so you could use it for references. And then you have a midpoint line, which you start from the center point and then you could stretch out however long you want it. Okay. So those are the three types of lines, and at different times you may want to use the three types. So in here, if you click line, right, you could also change a normal line into a line for construction. So now these two lines are pretty much the same. They're both like dash lines. So here you could click it. You could also make a line an infinite line, so this will make it go on forever. So you could click this to adjust. And then you have like additional parameters here. You could specify like where you want the X, Y. I usually don't touch this stuff, but if you want to be very specific, you could use this as well. But usually I'll just use a smart dimension tool instead. So midpoint line is good if you know the center point of your line, for example. So here you could create this midpoint line like so. Um, and there's also a point in the middle. So you could delete things. You could also hit Control Z to undo it. So here we just have like a midpoint line, right? So let's look at an example where you may need a center line. So let's say we create, um, let's say we wanted to do like a rough sketch. So we have like a center line, and let's say we have some shape here, like this, right? So maybe you just have some shape, and then maybe you want to use this as like a reference. So maybe you only want to connect part of it for some reason, and then you only want to like block off part of it. So this might be an example where you use a center line where you might have like a main sketch that's happening, and then on another sketch you may reference that. So actually, let's do another example. So let's say I'm making like a U or something. Okay. So I'm making a U. Okay, so I have a sketch like this, and then maybe this is just a reference, so I could select everything. I could say for construction. Then I have a construction sketch here, and then I could create another sketch on top, and then maybe I'm gonna do something here. So let's say I'm sketching some trapezoid here for some reason, and then maybe I want to create another sketch on top off of that same reference. So I'm gonna do something like this. Okay. So that's how you could use different sketches. Here I have three sketches, and I have like a reference sketch in using construction, and then from there I just sketch my other sketches on top. Okay, so that's one application. So you can also roll over and suppress everything. And I could, so those are for lines and center lines. And then midpoint lines is just good if you know where your center is supposed to be. And then maybe you could just dimension like half of your line, for example. So you could say half of my lines can be 1 inch, and then maybe I want this to be horizontal. So that would be a good way to um, also have your line center at the origin. That's like another way you could do it. But you could also like create a line like this, and then there's a line that pops up here. You could also do make coincident, and then you could also make that the origin. So it just really depends on your application. There's certain cases where you might find one more handy than the other, but really that will just come with experience. Okay? So if you found this video helpful, give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.